but I am on the budget committee. I've been to every council meeting for the last 4 years. I've missed 4. I've been pretty vocal on what I've seen happen with our community. And as a citizen, my vote really doesn't matter. My voice can be heard, you know, but it's like barking up a tree. At least we have got a few things changed. I feel we got a better mayor now than we had. I feel that Kevin Irvin was not a good part. I really feel bad that 13 people lost their job. You know, that really hurts me. And it was caused partially because everybody wants to think the council was so great. I don't blame Mr. Zimmerman. He caused the problem because of what he did. But the problem I have with what happened was it's a council. And so that's one of the reasons I'm running for the council position. So maybe I'll have a voice for the people. And that's the reason. And I do, you know, do the homecoming and a lot of things in town, tree planting. Always put my cars in things, but I just think we better think real hard about this election and see what we do for putting somebody in there that can help the community. Thank you.
I don't belong to many of the city committees, but in my own right, I like to participate with the community personally, to go speak with the seniors. I service only the seniors, not only the seniors, but most of the time, because when I was growing up, that's who I spent a lot of time with. And we know each other, we do things, and it brings hope and happiness to them, into their lives. I work also I've been working with Luis Gomez in the community gardens, trying to install more of the community gardens around town. I've also worked with him with the animal shelter. I used to volunteer with Green Hill and went through, at that time when we had Mr. Long here for city administrator, we went through the animal enforcement officer, which was Laura Howery, and then through Green Hill. And so I was kind of a go-between between all these places, and anyone that had a multitude of animals, okay, and didn't have them spayed or neutered, then we would work all together, and then I would transport the animals, get them fixed, and bring them back. I also take I take my own responsibility of doing neighborhood watch, because over the last few years, there's been a lot of problems, and if I see any problems, anything at all, I call our police officers here in Oak Ridge, and they respond quite quickly. Thank you.
I've served on the budget committee for 3 years, just finishing a term, one term as chairman. I've served on the charter review board, putting things together for the charter under Mayor Hampton and Mayor Scheu. I've served on the El Rapa Advisory Committee, which has proved an interesting and eye-opening affair. And I, unfortunately, moved to town just about 4 years ago, and sometimes through the day I walked into a local auto repair shop and got exposed to what was going on here in Oak Ridge. So I've learned an awful lot about the budget. I wanted to retire. So far that hasn't worked out quite as I planned. But I'm tired of my land value going down on my property. I'm tired of my water bill going up and getting nothing in return. The water that comes out of my faucets is barely drinkable. I'd like to have that corrected.
Actually, asking that question, it makes me think back. 20 years ago, I was coaching Little League and helped plant most of those trees over in front of the grade school, put the bark ring around that building. After that, then I kind of got into music with the church, and then there's always the citywide choir. There's pretty much something to do all the time as far as music. Like right now on Tuesday nights we have the choir and the orchestra, and then on Wednesday nights we have the ukulele club, and you know, there's always something going on in this city that I seem to be a part of. Although, to be honest with you, very little that has to do with the city. I said when I started this thing that I really don't have an agenda, and I didn't do this I didn't start running for city council to try to change somebody's opinion of what needs to be done. I just I'm running to try to fulfill the dream that we all have of Oak Ridge. Everybody here remembers what Oak Ridge used to be like. You know? I mean, what it is now is not what it used to be like, and there's no reason it can't be. You know, I mean, it's the same people, doing the same things. We're all hardworking people. I mean, everybody here has always done their job, and I just think we need to think what we were 20 years ago and go back to that.
Thank you. Next question. What is your opinion about the Hazeldale Fire and Oak Ridge Fire both using Oak Ridge Fire Department that the Oak Ridge taxpayers pay for?
Well, as I understand it, we have sort of a joint contract with Hazeldale. So they are paying for access to our fire equipment. I recently met with the chief of the fire department here, and we talked a lot about the issues facing fire and EMS in Oak Ridge. The good news is that our fire department is in really great shape. Fire is not really an issue, fire protection. EMS is really where we're going to have some issues. That's the emergency medical services, that's the ambulance. So that's where I think we need to focus our energy, is on how we're going to maintain a 4-paramedic department so that we have that option for people in Oak Ridge to get to the hospital. We have both an on-call paramedic and someone on callback, so if they're gone, we have that second person there. It's incredibly important that we keep that. Right now we're keeping it because of the generosity of the secret millionaire money. In 3 years, we won't be there. So we have to have a plan in place now for what we're going to do when that position no longer has funding. One thing that we might be able to do is have our fire departments create a fire district. It's something that I think is a possibility. They would then be funded by the taxpayers. They would be separated from the cities. If it's something that could contribute to growth, to have the same level of service from the same people, our friends and neighbors, while cutting costs for the city, I think it's definitely something that we should look into. And it's something that I'm committed to looking into and seeing if it's a viable option for our community. My family, we decided to move back here 2 years ago, and I have 2 small children. I don't want to worry that I'm not going to have an ambulance if I need one. I don't know how to deal with medical emergencies. And I think if we want to bring in other families, other businesses, they need to know that they can count on us, that we have those services in place, and that when they call 911, they're going to get the help they need.
Excuse me. I see no problem in doing joint services, especially if people are paying their share. I think it's something that, quite honestly, we need to do more of in different areas, even some conjoining with maybe West Firth. The things that we're running up against in this country as far as business goes, as far as an economy goes, I think more and more you're going to have to see some conjoining going on to where services are taken care of, or at least shared by different municipalities that are within proximity. I mean, Eugene and Springfield are talking about. Having a fire services district is probably not a bad way to go. It's something that should be reviewed. Anytime we can cut costs, or anywhere we can cut costs, we should. But still be able to supply the services that we all desire to have. So I don't have a problem with Hazeldale being part of this, sharing the equipment. They're our neighbors just as much as anybody here in town is.
Well, and along the lines of what Ms. Slavin and Dewey had mentioned, I think a rural fire district does make sense. Came here from a area that has that sort of setup, and it seems to work out very well. We just recently called it the firehouse, and it is correct that Hazeldale does contribute to the maintenance and upkeep and salary of the fire department. For me, I don't think there's anything more crucial or a greater task for any government at any level than public safety and welfare. if there was, and I don't sit on the council, and I probably come up on the short end of more votes than anybody I can think of. And I don't do that just to say no. But sometimes, and I think anybody that's ever raised a child, no is the real answer. And 2 years ago, voted against the budget, and that was one of four motions that I can recall that actually failed. I didn't vote against it because at that time we didn't know it was inefficient, but to me it seemed expedient and not entirely inefficient to where we got the most bang for the buck. If there is a vote that I have regretted, and maybe even lost some sleep over it, it would be changing that vote on the premise of being told that there was $47,000 seed money to restore a second out ambulance. 6 weeks later, we learned that that seed money had evaporated with the rest of the funding that was spent on stuff. I don't know about anybody else, but if I went out and spent my savings on stuff, there's an English guy down there that would beat me severely. Stuff is not an answer. And that would be the one vote that I would regret. There's nothing more important than police and emergency services, and we support it the best we can.
Could you repeat the question?
You bet. What is your opinion about Hazeldale and Oak Ridge Fire both using the Oak Ridge Fire Department, the one that Oak Ridge taxpayers pay for?
Well, Hazeldale just built a new fire department up there. I understand that, and I understand the money that comes through the budget. I see it. And I understand the budget at the Hazeldale district. But you got to think about the citizens that live up on High Prairie. You know, we as councilors really couldn't do anything about that. You got to get the people from Hazeldale and, you know, and the community to get along to figure out how we're going to do this. And financially, there's a problem because the people that live outside the district really don't like a lot of things with our fire service. And as far as the emergency service, they already use that. So I think there will be a little, I'm not against it. I'm saying I don't think it's going to be as easy as a counselor could answer that question and tell you what we can do, because I couldn't do that. So that's my views on it. But I think it would be a great thing if you could figure financially. I understand West Burr, you know, the ambulance that they got, or the fire truck that they got sits in our station, I believe. You know, there's a lot of things that people don't really realize what really goes on. The fire people understand. But me as a counselor, if I was a counselor, I couldn't decide what I would do. I would have to really sit down and do some serious thinking with some smarter people than me.
Before I would support